Behold, my glorious supporter, True Mr.FOoT, has asked me about music buildcraft. True Mr.FOoT asks, what sort of music do you enjoy? How do you like to enjoy it? While doing stuff or dedicating time to just listening to it in an album or playlist or single tracks, etc. And maybe more philosophically, why do you like the music that you like and not other stuff? What turns you off from a certain song or artist? Well, quite a few bits here. This one took a lot of takes, so now I know a bit more precisely what I want to say, and so I'm gonna say it. Yeah, all right. So music I like. There are kind of two different ways people can like music. I think genres and kind of mechanics, nuts and bolts of what music can do. I'm in the latter category. So there are some people who would say, well, I like rap, or I like electronic music, or I like classical and jazz. It might be multiple genres, right? I like trap music and heavy metal, like some combination. I don't know. Sure, this theoretical person, sure, right? I am not that kind of person. I think there are lots of people that are like that, but and I know plenty of other people, are. It's more like there's certain things music does that they like. Now, this could be any number of things. It could be that music does some emotional things that they like. It could be like a mechanic of music theory that they enjoy. I think I like both, so I'm going to tell you some of those things. When I don't like music, it's usually not just because it didn't do those things. Personally, I find most music pleasant. If you just follow basic music theory, like it sounds fine. I feel like music largely has to literally offend me for it to upset me. But I realized while recording a previous take of this that a lot of music I actually dislike because of baggage I have about the genre, not because I specifically dislike that song. So I'll talk about that later, but that's your overview of the answer. I don't really like any set genres. I mostly like these specific mechanic things that I'm about to talk about. And then when I don't like music, I think it's actually like me holding onto baggage, because broadly speaking, I really enjoy just music in the world. Like when I hear a random song on the radio or on a playlist at a store, I very rarely am irritated. Like I usually say like, oh, nice, some music. Like music is nice. Um, so we'll talk about those things now, and then I'll talk about like how do you like to enjoy it. That will probably come as a matter of course with some of these things. I listen to music rather rarely at the moment, so the things you'll hear are going to be pretty specific. You might be thinking, that's weird, why would you always want that super specific thing? It's because I don't want that super specific thing very often, because I don't listen to music very much. So what sort of music do I enjoy? Okay, come on, that was 3 minutes. That was an okay intro to a complicated question. So, a few things I like in music. Through composition is something I really enjoy. I don't know why, it's just really cathartic and satisfying to me. So through composed music is music that, broadly speaking, doesn't follow like a verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus structure. Generally, it's not like it never comes back to a motif or anything. But it generally progresses for its runtime rather than sort of going through modes. A lot of popular music, it's rather uncommon for popular music to be written like this, but there's plenty of music in the world that is written like this. It's not so rare. And there are artists that are broadly popular that write music like this. There are a few particular songs that come to mind or that do this thing for me. So I'll just give you a few examples. I'm not going to give you a ton of examples because I know if I say these artists too much, you're going to think, oh, he likes that kind of music. No, I don't. Remember, I don't like this genre. I like these specific mechanics, broadly speaking. So a few examples. Silver Sun Pickups has a song called Growing Old is Getting Old. That song starts very slow, and then over the course of its runtime kind of builds to this crescendo of, I don't know, it all just reminds me of like driving at night. That's when I listen to it a lot. And over the course of the runtime, it just makes me feel very like I completed something. I don't know. I guess that's why I like it. A really good example of not all through composed music, but music that is doing a broadly similar thing to what I'm describing is Dream Theater, like just most Dream Theater music. I don't love a lot of things about Dream Theater, but I ultimately enjoy them as an artist because a lot of their music is not through composed, but again, it sort of progresses over a long runtime, which I enjoy. I think it's fun. And it also does something I'll get back to in a minute. It's kind of story music. It's music that is a narrative, which I think is really fun. Coheed and Cambria is a similar artist that writes music that is literally a story. In that case, it is literally just a story, but also music. Another through composed-esque thing that I enjoy, a lot of albums do this thing where there's like a track at the beginning or early in the album that is this slow building up kind of cinematic track, and then it leads directly into the track after it in the album progression. I kind of like that. I used to really dislike that, and it's really grown on me. I broadly, I like that. I think sometimes they really do too much with those, but a couple that I really enjoyed, there's a Chiodos album, the name of which escapes me, where that's at the beginning, and I really enjoyed it. It's the album that has the song with Pierce the Veil as a guest singer in it, but I can't remember. If you like this music, you probably know. Pierce the Veil, Selfish Machines, the second and third tracks do this, which is a little unusual. I guess they didn't want to start the album on this slow note because their music is not broadly speaking like that. So they decided to make it the second track is like this really slow, brooding thing, and then it just slams into the third track, and I find that progression very fulfilling. So those are a few examples. That's also a little bit story music-y. In fact, both of those examples are a little story music-y. The Pierce the Veil, Selfish Machines example is a bit of a little epithet thing for the album overall, as though like this is what the music is going to be about, like these words attached to our artist's name. It might be a weird way to describe it, but that's how I think of it. Right, so story music. I give you a few examples. Coheed and Cambria and Dream Theater are really good examples. I think sometimes electronic music does a really good abstract job of this. There's a song by you. This is a new example, not from the previous takes. By, what is that artist called? Anyway, it's called Flatland. It has some of the people from... No, I think I have this wrong. Anyway, it's an electronic song that does this thing. But the point is, there are electronic songs that kind of abstractly accomplish being a sort of story, or they give me a certain experience. I'm not sure I can give you a good example, though. Like, a lot of it's a free association thing for me, maybe more than that the music itself does it. But a lot of the time, the progression over the course of the song just kind of gives me a certain, like, I picture a thing when I hear it. So I like that. I really wish I could give you an example, but I honestly can't. But yes, listen to some electronic music on YouTube, and you'll probably come across songs that will make you think, I guess, you know. And there are also sometimes full albums that I feel like the sum total of the music tells a story. And in those cases, I enjoy listening to the whole album. I think the whole album playlist thing, I don't view as a matter of preference. Some music is written so that you need to listen to it in album form, or it doesn't do something it otherwise would. You can enjoy it without it being in album form, but you're losing some of the thing. And there are other artists who don't really write that way, and they like it's fine to just listen to the individual tracks. In fact, in some cases I think it takes away from the individual tracks to listen to them all together. I think that is mostly based on the artist, though. I don't think that I don't view that as a personal preference. I do like making playlists. A lot of the music that I listen to and share, in the limited amount of music that I listen to and share, is me sending back and forth with a close friend of mine who I've known for a long time, and her and I built a lot of our communication on sharing music and listening to music together, and so a lot of it is that with her. And I also get a lot of music from Anna, my girlfriend that I live with and allow to DJ while I drive most of the time, gets me a lot of the music I listen to. A good example of a sort of album-long, the songs together do more than the sum of their parts example would be Lady Gaga's new album, Chromantica, I think it's called that. I've only listened to it twice, but back to back, I enjoyed it. So again, a small variety of things that I've enjoyed. I guess if you have to cram them into genres, that's not how I think of it, and I don't really like most music in these genres, but you could say like hardcore rock and I guess like sort of light metal and electronic, generally not trance and not trap, and more in the category of dubstep or not all those other things. I guess if you had to say genres, but I really insist I don't like most of that music. I like these specific things, which is why I am happy to find when I answered this question that without preparing, except for the take that I failed, I was able to give you an example off the top of my head for everything. Are there any other things? I guess there are a few examples of me using music instrumentally. I mean instrumentally conceptually, not instrument Zandy jokes. So for example, when I memorize the hiragana characters in Japanese, I use the memory palace related technique, and while doing it I looped a Mute Math album. Mute Math is an artist. I don't remember what the album was because I listened to it so to death that it just blended into part of my consciousness for me. So I don't know why I picked that album. I like it, but I don't love it. Maybe it was just rhythmic in a certain. The artist is named Mute Math. There's probably some time signature stuff in there that resonated with me. I don't know. Who knows? I honestly don't remember. But I was writing the hiragana characters over and over, and then to add more neural pathways to link up the memory and make it stronger. As I was writing it, I was looking at certain places on the wall in my little memory dome, mini memory palace thing, and listening to that music over and over again to kind of bind it in multiple ways. I did that for like 3 hours, and I continue to remember most of the hiragana alphabet. I just am not as clever at Japanese as I used to be. But when I was in college, I didn't study at all, and then the night before, I was like, I have to learn this, and I did, and it worked very well, and I got a great grade or whatever. I don't know. I hated all of my schooling, so I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I mean, anyway, it went well. Maybe I didn't like it because I did things like that. But no, I that was a positive experience. I liked studying Japanese. And I used that song to bind it to that. And then this is the thing everybody has, but because you might be saying, like, okay, but everybody likes some genres, Everybody likes some mechanics of music, too. A really good example is solos, like just having a good guitar solo in your song. Like, a lot of people like that. I played bass in high school, and I didn't really listen to music before that. We'll get to a story about that later that will explain this whole baggage thing I was talking about. But I didn't really listen to music before that, and I had to look up songs that had bass in them. And of course, I learned pretty quickly that it's not fun to play the bass in most songs. You have to go find songs that have a fun bass line. So for example, I listened to a lot of Rush, a lot of Victor Wooten, not because I love those genres of music or that sound of music particularly, although it grew on me, but mostly because the bass was enrapturing to listen to. When you actually have played it, you think, what? how are you doing that? How are you doing that? And if you listen to it, you might just think, especially Victor Wooten, you just think, oh, this is funky, cool. But if you think about, like, I need to do that on a bass, and then picture in your mind, like, what is this thing? Again, that's something a lot, like, if you play an instrument, I'm sure you've experienced this before. It's not really that I like the music per se, although I think you come to like it, appreciate it in a certain way. It's just so awe-inspiring because you know what had to be done for the music to be made that way, and you think, wow, like, this person can do this thing, like, whoa. So that, I like that. I've enjoyed plenty of music that way. And then there are songs that are just a memory. This other thing that I think is a very common mechanic or the thing music can do that's not really a genre. People just remember, like, I don't know what artist this was or what album this was because I don't really like it anymore and I haven't listened to it in a while, but I spent a summer at Sarah Lawrence College in high school doing a creative writing workshop, and it was only 3 weeks, but it was in a really bad time in my life, and it was a very good time while I was there. It was a really formative experience to who I became as a young adult, and I remember very vividly, like, I can hear the songs I was listening to while I was there all the time, and I remember the people that I spent time with very vividly and the music they liked. Pierce the Veil was an artist that was introduced to me by somebody I was with there, and so yeah, like, but everybody has that, I don't think that's a specific thing I like about music. I nevertheless have plenty of songs that I think like there are a few people that are really important to me in my life that there is a song that evokes that person to me, or like a few songs, like maybe a small handful. We're talking like two or three. And I do think about those a lot. Those are songs that come back to me very frequently when I feel emotional about that person, or I'm just by myself. A lot of the time I hear that thing. And so, yeah. So how I like to enjoy music has mostly come about as a matter of course. Not very often. I don't listen to music that much, but a lot of the time it's to connect to a person. A lot of the time I listen to music in my head. Like, not the most frequent time that I like listen to a song is listening to my memory of it. I don't actually listen to music like through audio stimulus that often, unless imagining it that way counts. But anyway, go figure, right? While driving, but I try not to drive very much because it's wasteful and a bad part of life, in my opinion. But when I am driving, what else are you gonna do? I listen to a fair amount of classical music just on the radio when I'm driving. I don't always listen to like my music, quote unquote. Sometimes I'll just put on a classic radio station if I'm too lazy to put on something else. So I don't mind that. I guess that's a genre I broadly think is like fine, sure. But not always, and that's an exception. And yeah, and then if I'm like gaming later at night, like I was sent a playlist by that friend who our relationship is based on music a lot, and she sent me a long playlist that I will probably listen to, like while playing Warframe or Magic the Gathering Arena or something like later at night. That is when I would listen to something like that. So sort of by taking time just to itself, and a lot of the time I will just stop and listen to a thing. I think probably the most common decompress activity that I do is to just go for a walk, and I don't like to interrupt that with music. I think a lot of people listen to a fair amount of music while working out, but I also tend not to do that. I really like to have focused on the thing. It's not better in any way. It just, for whatever reason, I like that. I think because I stream as well, I find that the thing that is compressing me mentally is this multitasking with like 5 different windows open, and I'm hearing the game audio and listening to background noises because I have no ability to focus on one thing, and reading chat and then chat over there and then looking at myself in the thing to make sure that nothing is getting blocked, except I mess that up all the time. And so because I have that as like this thing in my life, my work is pretty compressing. And so when I want to relax, I want like the amount of stimulus I want is like way lower to compensate. I kind of want just like as little as possible, and sort of decompress in the woods is my go-to. I do that almost every day. Even if I'm having trouble walking or not feeling so good, I will still fling myself out into the woods so that I can do the primordial thing and look at the green leaves, and my brain will trigger recovery. So I don't listen to music then. But yeah, I think that's most of it. I don't listen to music very often at the moment. I used to listen to it more, and I think that was because when I started doing what I'm doing for a living, I stopped, like, it just replaced, like, maybe I played video games for like 3 hours in like a set of 2 days. I might play for like a total of 3 hours. And doing this for a living just replaced 1.5 of those 3 hours, or up to 3 of those 3 hours, maybe a whole live stream, with me playing the game while live. I don't really play much more. This might sound unbelievable to you, than I did before I did this. In fact, sometimes I think I play even less than I used to, because when I am playing, I'm so on task to do the thing I want to get done that I don't feel like as much of an urge to get the thing after. I've mentioned earlier in my career, I've broadly speaking enjoyed video gaming a lot more since making it my job, which is something that, again, some people might find unbelievable. It's like, didn't you ruin it by making it something you have to do? But in this odd way, it actually made it a lot better for me in a lot of ways. So I don't know. Anyway, so I would have listened to music a lot while doing that, but I don't play video games more than I used to, and so that means I now listen to music less than I used to. And because of royalty issues and stuff on Twitch, and I don't use music in my YouTube videos, I am then not listening to music during that time. Okay, so to answer the end question, why do you like the music that you like and not other stuff? I sort of answered some of why I like it as I was going, like why I like the story thing or the through composition thing. It gives me a sort of feeling of catharsis or like I accomplished something. I just think that that is a powerful mechanic of music as a medium. But there are a few other reasons. So I took music theory in high school and spent a lot of time in an over-sussed music lab that my rich person high school had. And my parents did not choose to send me there because it had that, because as I mentioned, I didn't really like music before going to high school, which is also part of why I don't like some music. I'll get back to that in a minute. But I spent a lot of time in there making my own sounds to make like weird found sound dubstep that was not very good, but it was really fun. And listening to music theory, which is something I took to fairly well. I can't sight read for the life of me, but I had to learn. I just promptly forgot because I'm terrible at that. Made me appreciate a lot of mechanics of music theory, and when I would hear those things, I would enjoy them and then be able to seek them out to somewhat of a greater degree, or notice when they were in music that I was listening to and think, oh yeah, I like that thing, like that's enjoyable. And because I had to listen to music for class for a solid portion of my time in high school, which for me was a pretty formative time, I was a pretty different person before that. I know a lot of people kind of like reinvented themselves or opened up more, but I had a lot of values before high school that I completely reversed when I entered or while I was in high school. And so for me, a lot of those things solidified while I was taking this music theory course. And that meant that I learned to listen to music in this dissecting way because I had to for class, and started listening to the songs that I had been listening to that way. Here's where we get to why I don't like the music I like. So, what had I been listening to before? I said I didn't really listen to music before high school, so what gives, you know? This is what's going to make this long, but we're almost at the end, so we'll see what we can do. If you listen to me talk about what music I like for like 22 minutes, I figure you're probably up for this. Yeah, I didn't have much music, of course. I had a friend named Richie. He got me into music by playing every instrument except for bass and encouraging me to play bass so we could play drums, guitar. He would also sing. I tried to sing a little, and bass together. His dad was a somewhat professional musician, so we had a good recording space in the basement of his parents' house. And so there was a strong motivation to play. But now when I was in middle school, no hate to my parents about this, okay? They tried to send me to good schools, and ultimately they were in many ways good schools, but I went to some rich person schools before I chose where to go myself, and these kids were the most spoiled brats in my limited understanding, you know? Young Zandy was kind of an asshole about people walking around with their headphones in, blaring their rap music that talked about abusing women, and internalized that, like, rap music, all music, is just like bad, just this distracting thing that people don't pay attention to their surroundings and do this thing. No, that's because they were rich, snobby kids whose parents spoiled them and bought them all this hateful music. Rap music is not bad. There's nothing wrong with these genres just because whatever. But because I felt that way when I was younger, I did hold on to that a lot. And when I listen to some genres of music nowadays, it's hard for me to decouple that feeling that I had as a kid from the music I'm hearing. And I just associate it with being unpleasant somehow, or like it, I guess the word I would use is it's abrasive somehow. It doesn't have anything to do with music. It's actually that genre that is causing me to, like, that genre trapping that is making me remember those feelings. And so unfortunately, I have a lot of trouble enjoying some of that very rich tradition of music nowadays. But then there are other genres like country that are literally just all the same from a music theory perspective. And so, yeah, I don't like that either. And that's not going to change, you know. But, rap, that's not the case. That's a me problem. But what all of this meant, ironically, was that when I started playing music, the music I had was the music I was hearing from other people, which was, you guessed it, not the most complex from a music theory perspective, which is completely fine, just not for me playing the bass line in the song or me analyzing it in a music theory class. I remember I went to my first bass lesson, so this was the end of middle school for me. So Small Zandy was just learning, young Zandy, small Zandy, not just younger Zandy. We're talking like 10-year-old Zandy or whatever. I don't know. Was just ending the phase where he held on to all the anger about people not paying any attention because they had their headphones in. Like, young Zandy, newsflash, those people don't pay any attention even without their headphones in, okay? It's not because of the music. Like, leave the music alone. Anyway, and so I went to my first bass lesson, and my bass teacher, who was awesome, his name was Randy, said, all right, what music do you want to play? Where can we start? I would rather teach you by helping you play bass lines in songs that you listen to. We don't need to do exercises or whatever. Let's just play music, and you'll learn through that. And if I want to teach you a certain technique, we'll just find a song that you like that has that in it, which is awesome. That's a cool way to teach. And so I said, well, I don't have any music. There is no music I like. And he said, okay, the lesson is over. You don't have to pay. Tell your dad, or who's picking you up, tell your dad to take you to the store and buy an iPod and load up 5 songs, sure, from different artists that you enjoy, or that you're like fine with. Okay, you find 5 songs. Come back next week and we'll do it. And I remember a few of the things I had. I don't think I remember all 5. So Move Along by All American Rejects. So I don't like this song. It was just something I'd heard. I only heard music when I heard it on the radio, when my parents drove me to school or whatever, or when like I wanted noise on to drown out something else. When I heard my friends or other people at school listening to it. This was the only time I really heard music, except maybe in like a video or something, but even then I didn't watch a lot of that. And so that was just a song I could think of. Now, if you play bass, know Move Along by All American Rejects has a pretty boring bass line, so kick that one out of there. Then Dance Dance by Fall Out Boy. That's a cool song. I like that artist fair enough. But again, okay, little bum 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 bum. That's it. That's the whole bass line. So there you go. Yeah, that's not much to work with either. It was an okay beginning bass line. And then Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz. This song has a spicy bass line. Go look up this song, and you'll immediately be struck by the bum, ba ba bum, 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 ba bum, 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 voice crack. And yeah, that bass line is sick. That is what captured my imagination about like music is actually cool. I just didn't like that music, and then it all went from there. This is me as a music listening to person. That could have been a more impactful end credit title. But yeah, I think that pretty completely answers that question, which is a very difficult question. This was one I was happy to answer in 3 failed takes, and then this hopefully successful one. Although this one ended up being even longer. I thought I could compress it, but it turns out maybe I just fleshed out the story more. I actually remembered a lot of pleasant things about myself or my life while I was answering this, so thank you. I like these kinds of questions. They're fun. And maybe they can help people listening to this understand what they like about music, or just reminisce about what they know they like about music. It was fun to answer. Thank you for asking, Mr. Foot. Thank you for your curiosity and for all of your glorious Parley questions over the past couple of years. Now, or however long it's been, has it really been multiple years? It has. It's been more than a year. Anyway, okay. Look at music buildcraft. Look at this word, okay? You see the C? Is it not like slightly too high? What is up with this font? The word buildcraft looks so arcane. What's going on? Or like some of no, it is a thing. Look, some of the letters are like too far apart. Look at the I in music. It's got like so much space to it. What's going on? They're so far apart. This has been driving me crazy for the past 3 takes. I'm not crazy, right? The letters are so far apart. They're not doing that thing where each letter is getting its own like box for the character, and all the boxes are the same size. It's like that thing you have to fill out when you do like standardized testing, and they're the little box. Okay, anyway, this is not okay. We're done.